Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Teresa here and welcome back to December Daily 2021. Today I'm hoping to work on days 7, 8, and 9. And so I'm to the point of a pretty good schedule of batching, printing, and then working on a couple of days all at once just to sort of streamline the process. I can do regular life things in the days in between and then come back to the project with a couple of days and just sort of knock them out. And so you're probably going to laugh a little bit in this process video, so get ready. I hope that we have a good time, because there's a cute little story coming. But that's part of the magic of looking intentionally for these stories throughout the month of December. It's always surprising to see what goes down and what happens and what's behind this door and what's in this package. And so to begin with, I printed out my photos and sort of had an idea of what kinds of layouts I wanted to create with these photos. And then I sat down with the album and sort of rearranged things a little bit. And what I had for day 7 was the back of the tree page. So space for a hybrid layout or space for pattern paper. And the way that it worked out was I have this photo of the kid. This is Natalie and Emberlyn waiting to leave in the morning to go to school. And so it's a little bit of storytelling here with the photo, the Santa hats, and the little trees at the top of the stair, and just them peeking out there. This is where they hang out before they leave in the mornings. And so I had this little vellum pocket. Originally I was going to do it as a standalone page, something like this. But I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is put this on the back of the tree page and use the vellum pocket alongside it, and just go ahead and adhere that to the back of that page so that the journaling can go there and the number can layer on top. I'm not sure if that's exactly the number I'm going to use just yet. And then of course I have space for some journaling or some embellishments here, and a space for a 3x8 journal tag. So that's pretty straightforward, I think. For day 8, so this is a great little story. My husband, we went out for dinner, and he said to me, I found this little shop right over here that I thought you might like. And so he took me over to this little shop, and it's a little place in Winston-Salem called Kilwin's. They do chocolate confectionery things and fudge. And so we got a bunch of things, as you can see in the bag. And I don't want to give away some surprises, but there's probably about 30 pounds of chocolate in that bag. It's really funny. But remember, we have 4 kids. So if we do something like that for one of them, we do it for all of them. But the fudge was for me. And when I opened it, they had this great little kitchen tool. And I'm not going to name this. I don't want to get flagged or anything like that. But this was included in the box with the fudge. And so I had to hang on to it and find a way to incorporate it into the album. And this, as I was prepping these pages, it occurred to me, first off, I've never been in the situation of trying to incorporate something like this into any of my albums ever. If you've done something like this, let me know down below, because I would love to hear your stories. But it was kind of funny because I felt like everything I put with it kind of was weird. So, but anyway, it did, you can see the photo of the box the fudge came in, the fudge itself, and then the little tool here that we used. And so I'm going to somehow incorporate that, laugh with me, cry with me. Hopefully it's all in good fun. I think that I want to use the plaid transparency from Ali Edwards for this page in some kind of way, but I don't quite have it figured out just yet. So I'm going to set that to the side here, and then the next day is going to be day 9, and I wanted to play again with the December daily templates that Ali Edwards released just a couple of days ago. And so I printed out the Joy template. I brought in the Paisley Press patterned paper on top of the Joy word in Photoshop and printed that out, and I'm going to cut it. I also printed my photo that's supposed to go inside there. And so this is one of those little spinners from Germany, from the Christkindlmarkt. And so I wanted to tell a little story about that. I did print out the journaling for that page, which goes across the bottom. And so I have an idea for incorporating that too. But what I wanted to do is, once I cut all this out, I wanted to adhere it to the green branch vellum and have that going across there, and then the journaling across the bottom. And that leads me into a pretty simple kind of repeat on the back, I think. Or I may do a piece together photo for day 10. I'm not sure yet, but I don't have the photos yet for that day, so I'm gonna stick with this. I'm gonna stick with what I know. Get started and jump in here. And so I hope you enjoy watching today's process videos. Okay, so I'm gonna pop on in here and clear off my desk a little bit just to have a little bit of space to work. And starting with day 7, I'm gonna go ahead and adhere the photo and the vellum pocket down. I've got to cut them out, cut the photo out first, and just a final little moment to make my final decision and tell myself, okay, just go with it and see what happens. And so I'm just going to trim that out. I think that the photo ended up being printed at 8 1/4 inches high by 5 or 5 1/4 inches wide. I think that is about what the dimension was, and that left a little bit of overlap. I measured before I edited and printed the photo because I wanted the vellum pocket to overlap the photo a little bit. Originally I was going to sew those two together, but since I ended up adhering them to the back of day 6, I'm gonna just put them down with tape and not sew those together. But there still is a little bit of an overlap. You can see here where I'm lining up those punched holes. It did leave a little bit of space at the bottom of the page. I could go back and probably trim that without losing a lot. We'll see. If it keeps me up at night, I'll go back and trim it. Otherwise, I'll just leave it like that because it's all right. It looks great. One of the things I did end up wishing was that the vellum pocket, the little circle tab at the top, I wish that it had been just punched on one side, but then I know if it had been, it would have been punched on the front, because it makes it kind of hard when you take the vellum, not the vellum, when you take the journal card out of it, it's hard to put it back in sometimes. But moving forward here and figuring out how I want to embellish this page. And so these these title words, "This story has my heart," seemed like a really good opportunity here to bring the photo and the vellum pocket together into one smooth element. And then also notice how the 7 at the bottom, I'm going to let that overlap just a tiny bit to help it be a part of the title. And I'm just going through here and looking for something to add my journaling to. So these are 3x8 Traveler's Notebook size. They're 3x8 journal cards from Allie Edwards and from Paisley Press last year. And the challenge here was to figure out what looks good behind that pocket. And I ended up going with this rather neutral journal card. And one of the things that I'm noticing about this layout overall is how sort of monochromatic that it's all coming together. The photo itself is just taken in the early morning, so it's not quite light out. It's in the hallway, which is a little bit dark normally in the mornings. And so there's just this this little gentle feeling about this layout, which also is part of the storytelling. And so I kept that journal card very neutral, and I'm really happy about that decision. And the cork as well ties in with this sort of more browns, creamy colors, and then the white title gives a place for, it's actually a little bit of contrast layered on top of this very creamy photo. And I know some people don't like to layer creams and whites together, but I have to say that that's sort of the story of our whole house because our whole house is sort of creamy white walls and off-white carpet. And how do we live with it? We touch up paint a lot, and we steam our carpets, and that's basically it. But blending this cork here, adding the cork here adds a little bit of a contrast as well. And a layout, when you do a lot of monochromatic colors like this, you still want an element of this is a surprise here. And there's two elements like that, the cork and also the vellum pocket with the red. It's the little pop of red here that this layout really needed. But yet, because it's vellum, it sort of blends into the background really nicely. And of course, the journal card tucked inside the pocket helps to keep it not so shocking. But I'm going to move along now to day 8. And day 8, I'm going to use this beautiful red plaid transparency. And so here comes the pop of color to this spread. And my original idea here was to adhere or sew these two 4x6 photos directly to the transparency and put journal cards on the back or alternate or something like that. That was my original idea. So I'm going to go through here and look for some journal cards. And so I want to just talk to you a little bit about this great story. We had date night and went out to dinner, and after dinner my husband said to me, he said, you know, I saw this little shop right around the corner here that I think you would really like. And so let's go see if it's open. And we went to see if it was open. And sure enough, it was this little chocolate shop. And it was just a little winter wonderland of chocolate and confectionery, little places. And so when we came home, we opened up the fudge and had some of the fudge. And here was this little kitchen tool included. It's a wood veneer piece, which I thought was great, because how many times do we use wood veneer in our layouts? And here's this little fitting wood veneer piece that goes right with the story. So the question became how to incorporate this in the layout. And I have to tell you guys, while I was trying to look for some page ideas and going through products, I kept layering that kitchen tool onto December Daily products, and it looked particularly hilarious with the red vellum from Allie Edwards that says the spirit of Christmas. And I found a little transparency journal card that said less stress, more sparkle. And so I realized that any of the Christmas puns or Christmas quotes really weren't going to work out so well with this kitchen tool. I'm going to leave that to your imagination, but it was pretty funny. And in the end, you'll notice how I went really simple with the journal cards that I chose, and I didn't do an overall kind of title or anything like that. So what I decided to do, instead of adhering the photos to the transparency, I decided to create my own pockets. And my idea was sort of like a file holder that you put on your desk, where you see the tabs at the top of the file, and they're staggered. And so I took one of the Allie Edwards 8x10 page protectors and created a chipboard sort of template and cut the pockets at the bottom of the page. And then I sewed down it's not really the center, but I sewed this pocket for the transparency. And then I'll sew across the bottom to get the pockets where I needed them. You could seal them up with your fuse tool if you wanted to. And yes, it did take me 2 tries to get that the way that I wanted it to be. But it turned out pretty cool. I actually think that this is kind of a concept that I want to explore a little bit deeper. Instead of a cascading photo or, those pull tab layouts, this is more like a file holder that you have on your desk. And so I thought that was a kind of fun way to present the 2 photos and the 2 journal cards, but also be able to include this transparency in the layout. I still have an interactive element here, which is really fun. Still have pockets and introducing a pocket page here. And it was just a kind of a fun way to present this story. And I've been listening to Allie Edwards. I've watched her videos almost every day so far this month. Very inspired. And I love how she talks about her pages being holders for these stories. And I feel like this page fits right in with that. It holds this story. All right. So moving on to how I want to present this kitchen tool on the page. And so I've got the transparency cut down to fit into the pocket that I created for it, and the little white number 8. And I'm just going to keep this really simple. I'm dying laughing to myself behind the scenes. I have laughed so hard over this layout in the background. I feel like it's not coming through, but anyway. So I'm going to keep this really simple, and I'm going to tie this little ribbon around the kitchen tool just to sort of, you know, make it not quite so out there. And I went through, I thought I was going to sew the ribbon onto this 8, and I just have to tell you that that was not happening. I punched through the ribbon and the 8, and the punch just didn't even phase that velvet. So, but I chose a little black ribbon, just pulling that black from the transparency, and it's a nice contrast against the wood of the kitchen tool. And I'm just going to adhere those using simple glue dot. I talk about this later as well. I don't know if I'm going to keep it in the pocket per se, because it is a little bit thick, and so I might end up putting that 8 on top of the transparency instead of inside of. That is one way that to reduce a little bit of bulk in your pages. And then you'll see I also trimmed that ribbon just a little bit more as well. So you can see though how this page is shaping up. I really liked how this looks and how cute this turned out. Remember how we talked about the rule of thirds and how that rule, dividing your page visually into 3 rows and 3 columns, works beautifully with the 10 by 8 page size. And I think that's one of the things that makes these layouts so incredibly satisfying. And that rule is, you can sort of see that rule here. The transparency takes a 1/3 column on the left hand side, and the photos take the other 2/3 on the right hand side. And then the right hand side is divided up beautifully with the photos and the journaling cards. So I attached the number 1 and the number 2 just so that I could tell both parts of the story. One, the part about discovering this cute little shop, and part 2 about discovering the little kitchen tool included in the fudge. And I will be talking about this layout for a long time to come. But it's also a layout idea that I want to pursue further, the idea of presenting multiple photos and multiple stories in a sort of file folder format instead of cascading. They point up, and the top of the photos shows. And notice how it gave such a great opportunity for the little 1 and the little 2 to pop up over top of the journaling cards. So fun. This turned out so cute. I love this layout to pieces. It might be a funny favorite so far this year. Okay, so I wanted to come back on here real quick because plans changed, as they sometimes do when you're in the process. And this is some of what I love about batching days together, is that you can change things around a little bit if you feel like you wanna. And so finishing up day 8, I ended up having the 4 little cards. They are a little bit loose, so I'm gonna just sort of think about what I want to do about that. But this is what I have the back of to work on, and that made me think of the wrapping paper that we're using this year. And so I think that's what I'm going to use for my day 9. I'm going to fold some of our papers and attach them to the backs of these cards. They won't have to be, if you're on day 9, you don't have to pull them out. I just want them to be visible. I chose 6 papers, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which should layer them nicely in that pocket. And then I'll probably do, this is one of the giant tags that we got, and we found these at Home Goods, and so that I'll probably punch that and put it in the binder, and then put my number on the back, or maybe put my number here somewhere or something. I'll figure out whatever number I decide to use. I also am debating about this 8 and whether to take the cutting tool out and put it on top of the page protector because it's a little bit thick, but we'll see how it comes out in the end. So let me hop back into the process. Okay, so I'm gonna just start the process here. I'm not going to talk for long. I'm going to put a little bit of music in while I trim these wrapping paper pieces to make them a little more usable. I am just going to use scissors and sort of give it that hand wrapped feel. That was very intentional. And so just take a look and see how this comes together. So I'm just doing a last little trim and tucking those into the pockets. And look how cute that turned out. All of our cute little wrapping paper scraps tucked into those pockets. And now the decision time for the number to use for day 9. And you'll notice too that I found these giant tags at Home Goods, and so I'm going to use that as the spot for my journaling. And I decided to use, this is a red and white number 9 from Color Cast Designs from last year's December release. And so what made that really convenient actually is because I could just tie it to the tag with the twine. And that way it's an added little embellishment here. Again, I kept this really simple and just allowing the wrapping paper itself to be the star of this page. I debated on whether the two plaids, are they conflicting, the plaid in the wrapping paper and the plaid in the transparency, but that's okay. We just have all the plaids in this album, and that is kind of reflective too, because I think that red plaid is just kind of everywhere. And so for the back of the tag, I left the front of the tag just the way it is, and the back of the tag, I took one of the Ali Edwards shipping tags from last year and trimmed that down. The tag, the punch for the tag has a little grommet on it, so I cut down the white tag so that I could leave that grommet intact. And so then that left me with my journaling space. I stamped some of the lines for my journaling here, and just to ease this little transition between the stark white and the craft paper, I'm going to use a couple of strips of washi tape and adhere those down, add my journaling, and just going to talk a little bit about how actually Natalie chose one of our wrapping papers this year, and I think that was a first for us to have one of the children pick a wrapping paper, and that was fun. And just some notes about where they came from. Incidentally, Target, Hallmark store. That's about it. So, and I think I have a wrap up here for you, so I'll go back into live mode. Okay, so I just wanted to go back on here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today with days 7, 8, and 9. And then I will come back for day 10 and show you what I had originally planned for day 9. But I wanted to show you just what it looks like in the album and sort of wrap up for you. So day 7, this story has my heart and the little journal card tucked into the pocket. I debated about whether or not to put a tab there, but I think I'm just going to leave it just like that. Let the December vibes peek up there out of the top of it a little bit. For day 8, of course, the special little tool and the treats that we found. Story 1 and story 2. There were several parts to that great story. Day 9 here with the wrapping paper and the number 9 and the tag from Home Goods. So thank you so much for watching today. Thank you for following along. And thank you so much for all of your lovely comments and your kindness towards me. I hope that you're having a wonderful December, and I hope that you feel super inspired by what's going on in this little album. I'll see you back here again soon.